Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're tackling something that feels really personal for a lot of us. What in the world happened to the American dream? It just feels like the goalposts have moved, like way down the field, and the whole game feels a little rigged, doesn't it? So that's the big question we're asking. Is the dream actually dead, or has it been replaced by something else, a fantasy that was never really meant to come true in the first place?
And this idea right here, man, it just gets to the absolute heart of the problem. A fantasy with no staircase, a dream without a ladder. It's like we're constantly being shown this incredible destination, right? But nobody's handing out a map. Nobody's showing us how to get there.
So that brings us right to our first section, a dream without a ladder. And here, we're really going to unpack this massive disconnect, between the vision of success we see plastered everywhere and the actual practical steps available to, well, most of us.
Just open up your phone. The dream we're being sold today, it's not a modest little house in the suburbs. Nope, it's a penthouse. It's a private jet. It's this life of just effortless, perfect excess. And here's the kicker. It's not sold to us like it's a movie. It's sold as the actual life of someone who, might even claim they're just like you and me.
And that really is the question, isn't it? If that's the new bar for success, how is a normal person supposed to get there? Like, where are the rungs on that ladder? Because when you really look closely at this new dream, there aren't any. They're just gone.
Okay, so to really get how disconnected today's dream feels, we've got to rewind the clock a bit. Let's talk about the original dream, a chicken in every pot. Its power came from something totally different.
See, the old American dream was so powerful because it was modest. It was tangible. It was about stability, a steady job, paying off your mortgage, and just that quiet confidence that your kids would do a little bit better than you did. You could actually picture yourself building it, piece by piece.
And that simple phrase just captured the whole spirit of it perfectly. A chicken in every pot. It wasn't promising a feast every night or a fancy car. No, it was a promise of something way more fundamental. Dignity, security, and just knowing that your hard work would pay off in a life that wasn't a constant struggle.
This phrase has a pretty wild history. It actually starts way back in 16th century France, with a king who just wished every peasant could have a chicken for their Sunday dinner. Fast forward a few centuries, and it gets picked up for a 1928 political ad in the US, all about prosperity. But then, just a few years later, bam, the Great Depression hits, and the whole thing becomes this bitter joke, a symbol of a promise that was just shattered.
And that whole history, it really reveals the old dream's secret weapon. It wasn't about luxury at all. It was about plausibility. It was a goal you could believe in, a ladder you could actually see and climb, one steady rung at a time. And that feeling, that plausibility, that's exactly what seems to be missing today.
So, if that ladder was so sturdy, what happened? Where did it go? Well, that brings us to our next section. The ladder collapses. Because somewhere between that old-school dream and right now, the rungs on that ladder started to crack. They started to break apart. And it wasn't just one thing, It was more like a slow-motion demolition. For decades, wages just flattened out. They stopped keeping up. And at the same time, the price tags on the core building blocks of a middle-class life, a house, healthcare, education, they just started to skyrocket, moving further and further out of reach for so many people. Now, if all that was a slow burn, then 2008 was the explosion. The financial crisis, it wasn't just some economic downturn, it was a massive psychological blow. For a whole generation, it felt like the basic rules of the game were just a complete lie. Just think about it. The family home. That was supposed to be the ultimate symbol of security, right? The cornerstone of middle-class wealth. And all of a sudden, it turned into a trapdoor. Millions of people watched their equity just disappear overnight. The very foundation of that old dream turned out to be shaky, and a whole lot of faith crumbled right along with it.
So, with that old dream feeling so fragile, so unreliable, a massive void opened up. A crisis of faith, really. And something brand new and incredibly powerful rushed right in to fill it. We're calling it the fantasy on your screen. And it's this super seductive alternative that was waiting for us, right there in our pockets.
And here's the whole disconnect in a nutshell.
On one side, you've got the fantasy on your feed, right? Penthouses, private jets, the whole deal. On the other side, you've got the quiet reality for most people. Cooking dinner at home, driving a normal car, stressing out about student loans. One of those is a total spectacle. The other one? It's plausible, but it's kind of boring. So guess which one gets all the attention?
And while all this is happening, the very definition of what it even means to be rich has been quietly inflating. You know, $1 million used to be the big benchmark. Then, somehow, the target became 10 million. And now? Now the cultural goalpost has shifted all the way out to 100 million. It feels like the finish line just keeps getting pushed further and further down the track.
So where does all of this leave us? Well, it leaves a lot of people in a really tough spot. We're calling it trapped between two illusions. Basically, we're caught between two powerful, super misleading, and ultimately pretty damaging ideas about what success is even supposed to look like.
And these are the two lies that kind of work together like a 1-2 punch. First, you have the fantasy lie that tells you to aim for this impossible, glamorous life. And then, right behind it, you have the consumer lie, which whispers in your ear that your daily habits, your spending, your burn rate, they don't really matter. Because hey, the system's rigged anyway, right? It's a perfect trap. Go chase the fantasy and don't even bother building a real ladder.
And maybe that's the real tragedy in all of this. It's not just that the old stable dream is harder to get to, it's that it's been replaced by a fantasy with no path forward. And a dream without a ladder, well, that's not an inspiration, it's a taunt. Just hanging up there in the sky, always just out of reach. Which leaves us all with one last really crucial question. If this fantasy that we're being sold is a total dead end, what should we be dreaming of instead? If we had to build a brand new ladder for a new American dream right now, what would the rungs even be made of? That's something to think about. Thanks for joining us on The Explainer.